All right, so it's official. Trump has selected JD Vance as his vice president, and gotta be honest, my initial reaction was, "Ah, geez, could have done better than that." Like, what does Vance really add to the ticket? Is he gonna, be a ride or die to you? He was talking shit about you from 2016 to 2020 until he changed his tone, and right around the time he was wanting to run for senator. So, was that just a political strategy, or did he just misread you in the first place? And I guess before Trump was shot, I would have said, grab RFK. They'll give you 10% of the vote. They'll pull some Democrats away, but that's not really a factor anymore because of the whole getting shot in the face thing. I imagine he's a virtual lock to win if he could stay alive until the election. So, started looking to JD Vance. And, I'm sure you've all seen this clip here.
Like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's the best president of my lifetime, and he revealed the corruption in this country like nobody else.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. I think that he was a good president. I think he made a lot of good decisions for people.
I take it you're not a Trump supporter from what I've read. Am I right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I didn't vote for Trump.
All around, he was a great president. I'm 37 years old. Certainly the best president of my lifetime.
All right, so that's not a great look when it's played out like that, but you look around, do some research, and try to understand the guy, put yourself in his mind. So here, Vance is asked when he's running for Senate. We know Trump endorsed him. He's asked why he was originally critical of Trump.
Vance, we do begin with you. You've admitted you've changed your mind on Donald Trump, but in the past you've said, quote, "I'm a never Trump guy," quote, "My God, what an idiot," and quote, "God wants better of us." All statements you have either said or tweeted about Donald Trump at some point. The question, you have 60 seconds. Why should Trump voters, Trump supporters, vote for you?
Yeah, look, I mean, all of us say stupid things, and I happen to say stupid things very publicly. I've been very public about the fact that I voted for the president in 2020, that I was wrong about the president back in 2015, 2016, and that he's been the greatest president of my lifetime for the very simple reason. There are many, but one very important reason is that he revealed the corruption in Washington, D.C. I mean, who would have believed 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that the FBI would actually investigate illegally, get an illegal wiretap on a sitting U.S. presidential candidate? We saw that. Trump revealed it, and he revealed it in a way that showed us the stakes of the fight, which is why I'm running for this office in the first place. One thing I'd point out is that I was just north of 30 years old when I said a lot of those things. A lot's changed in my life. I re-engaged with my faith. I got baptized 3 years ago. I've had 3 kids since then. A lot's different. And one of the things that's different is that I did change my mind about Donald Trump. He was a great president. And I think at the end of the day, one of the things this race presents is an opportunity. Who actually agrees with Trump on the core issues of trade, of immigration? Who's willing to fight for an America First foreign policy? I think that's clearly me.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. We're going to move on to Mr. Dolan.
All right, so it's not like an amazing knock it out of the park reason for hating Trump at first and now being a ride or die. So I look to the people I trust, and top people I trust these days are people like Trump, Elon, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and you might laugh this one, but I definitely trust Alex Jones more than the average person speaking on the internet because, he said some crazy things that turned out to not be true, but he's also made some insane predictions that have turned out to be true. And what I really look for when trying to judge a person's intentions, whether or not they're good or bad, it's really pretty simple criteria today. It's do you believe in God? Put God before anything else. Do you care about your family deeply? Do you have a family? Do you? And then, very, very important, are you anti-globalist? And this comes up, and something like this makes me much more comfortable with JD Vance.
Short-term electoral calculations. He matters because of what he means to the Republican Party long-term. This is cementing a kind of nationalism. Yeah. Now, Trump, to your point, I agree with you. He's an instinctive, impulsive, intuitive nationalist. JD Vance is an ideological nationalist. That's a much more dangerous virus because he can polish this stuff and make it seem palatable to people. He can sell this stuff to Silicon Valley. He can sell this stuff other places. And what it does is it locks the Republican Party on a pathway that I think is dangerous for the world. Again, the Ukrainians are now in deep trouble. NATO is now in deep trouble. Trump he could have gone with a Nikki Haley and signaled to the world, hey, listen, I got to give stuff to my base, but I'm not going to abandon the world. This pick is a horror on the world stage. So JD Vance matters because Donald Trump is pointing the Republican Party in a very scary direction for the long term.
So that is much more powerful than anything that JD Vance himself could say in terms of selling me on the concept that he is good for America. Let's get something straight. No matter what the hell you hear, nationalism, especially today, great thing for America. Globalism, scariest thing that America can. It's the scariest, most damaging thing that is the threat to America right now. So, I mean, the threat to the world, let alone America. So it's the number one thing that the people who are responsible for every bit of pain and suffering that we face, globalism is the number one thing they're fighting for. One world government, limiting economic growth, limiting population growth. That's what nationalism is fighting against. I mean, nationalism flawed in some ways, maybe if you go to a far extreme of it, but what's the main thing that every U.S. president who's been assassinated for is cracking down on the notion of free trade where other countries can hurt us by underselling our businesses in America. So that's a ringing endorsement in my mind. I went from a 3 out of 10 excitement level on Vance to a 7 out of 10 after hearing Van Jones being terrified of the notion of Vance. I mean, if you're packaging him in terms of somebody who's a better spoken, more eloquent, more polished nationalist than Trump, sign me up for that shit. I am all good with that. And then Tucker Carlson says something similar. It's I'll show you this clip. It's not necessarily about who supports the guy, but who is against the guy. Very telling.
Person who pays close attention has got to be thrilled by that. And if you don't know much about JD Vance, I'm not even going to make a case for JD Vance. I'm going to tell you what I just saw, which is that every bad person I've ever met in a lifetime in Washington was aligned against JD Vance. And I do think the negative case is often more powerful because I know of myself, I do not think I'm a particularly good person. I have strong reasons for feeling that way. I don't always think that my side is right. I know for a fact I have been wrong many, many times. And I hope to correct and be honest about my error. So it's not like I think that, I'm always, God's always on my side. Sometimes I'm not on God's side. But I definitely know who's representing the other side. It's a lot easier to tell who the people who are only in it because they like, killing other people in pointless wars. Like, I know who those people are. And their odor is so powerful that I can smell one when he walks in the room. And every single one of those people in a line that would extend from Milwaukee to Chicago was lined up over the last week to knife JD Vance. Not on personal grounds. I mean, he's a perfectly nice guy. He's like one of the only members of the Senate with a happy marriage. True. But because they thought he would be harder to manipulate and slightly less enthusiastic about killing people. That's it. That he would be an impediment to their exercising power. And boy, they went after him in a way I've just kind of never seen. Which I think happens every day in Washington. I just don't have a vantage on it because I'm far, far away and grateful to be.
All right, so there you go. I mean, anybody who touches that nerve and invokes that level of aggression out of the globalist deep state people, sign me up for that shit. That's a ringing endorsement for them, more powerful than anything the candidate themselves can say. So, I mean, same thing with Viktor Orban. I didn't know too much at all about the guy until I started hearing people complain about him. And then once you look into what he's doing, he's probably one of the brightest spots in all of Europe with what he's doing, But just because he's a nationalist, they don't like him because that's not conducive for killing, military industrial complex, globalism, NATO expansion, blah, blah, blah. So that's a threat to all that shit. And they don't like that. So last one, if you really want to go on the far outer edges of things, the most conspiratorial, hard to get trust from person out there, Alex Jones. What does he say about JD Vance?
Breaking news for you in some inside baseball. Trump has just picked Senator JD Vance as his VP. an excellent choice. I happened to run into JD Vance at the TPUSA Action event that I was speaking at. He spoke right after I did a few weeks ago in Detroit, Michigan. And I talked to him and his chief of staff, and they told me they were listeners for a long time. I know Vance has defended me before against these attacks on free speech. And I said, hey, I hear you're the guy. And he goes, yeah, I think I've got it. And so Trump keeps his cards close to the vest. I was blown away that Vance actually told me this. And then I saw Chase Geiser at the green room door with his camera on and almost slapped him. I love Chase, but this was a private meeting and there's Geiser. So we even have that on tape, but I'm not going to put it out. Just amazing information, ladies and gentlemen, because Marco Rubio is super ultra evil. Very well spoken. I admire his mind. He's very smart, but he's a deep stater, folks. And Trump was signing his death warrant if he did that. That goes the same for the governor and all the rest of it. Carson would have been great, very trustworthy, very smart, very good man. But this is a good choice. JD Vance, vice president for President Trump. And I was a good boy and did not break the news.
So yeah, you get the point. And really, he makes a good point there. Marco Rubio's part of that swamp deep state ecosystem, which that's really the fight that we're fighting here. Those people exist on both sides. Both Democrat and Republicans are deep state swamp creatures, and there's good people on both sides. I would say, the people who are not in the swamp that are on the Democrat side tend to get, kicked out or rooted out of the party. Like Tulsi Gabbard and Joe Manchin, RFK, all people I would put in the non-deep state camp. But look what happened to them. They got basically forced out of the party into no man's land to being an independent, which is, it's unfortunate that that's no man's land because of the way the system's built, but that's a complaint for another day. So the essence of this is Vance, not a deep stater according to people I trust, according to the people that hate him. And I'm good with that. As if he's going to be a ride or die, anti-deep state, anti-globalist guy, then I'm happy with JD Vance. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next time. God bless.